You are now listening to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. And this is your best friend's best friend, Chidozie Okafor, ready to take you on another journey. Are you with me? Because I'm ready. Let's get it. In this episode, we discuss the importance of intimacy and issues with prioritizing sex in a relationship. We uncover the value of being vulnerable, transparent, and creating safe spaces. We talk about dealing with different personalities and navigating the dynamics of being with an alpha woman. And we also examine the new challenges from raising a baby. I started thinking more about intimacy, and you talked about communication. And so, given your experiences, how has intimacy played a role in your relationship? And in general, how important do you think it is? And I'm not just talking about like physical intimacy, but both physical and mental intimacy.
Like, how is it over time? Like, since we began?
Yeah, how has it played a role? And how important do you think it is?
Well, I think it's very important. I think men view intimacy one way, and I think women view it another way.
And what are those ways?
Pick a woman, pick a man. I think you're going to get a different answer every single time. But whoever the man, whoever the woman is, if they don't talk about whatever their definition of it is, there's going to be problems, period. Right? Because it's, whether it's sex, whether it's conversation from intimacy and the emotional stimulation or whatever, like if it's not discussed, how do you hold somebody to a standard that they don't know about? And if it is discussed and you just don't do anything about it, how do you expect it to be better?
Is that a conversation you guys had from jump, or is it something that?
I don't think we ever had those conversations until later in life.
And is it something you recommend that you have up front, or is it when it happens, it happens? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Like, should you be having those conversations earlier?
Yeah, like you think about now, like if you were thinking about younger you, some of those conversations you would have loved to have or emphasize or push having earlier on than when they happen, or you like they kind of happen when they happen, you figure it out?
I think maybe I would. I mean, so intimacy as it relates to like sex, right? If sex is your make or break point for a relationship, your relationship's not going to survive. Right? Period. No matter whether it's the volume, whether it's performance, whether it's the quality, right? If sex is the make or break point for a relationship that you're in, right? And it's high up on this priority list, if you got a top 10 and sex is number 1, 2, or 3, like it's not going to survive. It's just not, right? Because you think about you think about the most meaningful relationships, like the most meaningful, impactful relationships that exist in your life. Do they involve sex? No. Right? Because you would probably pick, a homeboy, some partner, some family, right? That are these relationships that, you couldn't replicate if you tried. The meaningfulness is to the nth degree. The impactfulness that they've had on your life is unparalleled. And none of that involves sex. Right? But over here, in marriage, yes, sex is a part of marriage, and, you can go biblical or not go biblical, whatever your choice is, but, sex is here. But if you put sex up here as this priority item, and you have this expectation of X, Y, and Z with sex being up here in the top 1 or 2, it's just not going to survive, period. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not important, right? I'm not saying that it's not important, it shouldn't be discussed and worked through or whatever, but if it's like, this isn't going to work because we don't have sex enough, or this isn't going to work because we have sex too much, right? It's going to fail. Like, it's going to fail. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow, but it's going to fail. I don't think there's any way else to cut it.
And on the emotional side of it, I always wonder how important, this goes to like the mental part of mental intimacy, how important is it in the relationship to be vulnerable?
Oh, you have to be.
And is that something that came natural for you?
No.
And if not, how did you work through it?
Time. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that I am not the most transparent immediately. transparent person.
And I'm pushing you a bit, and I'm glad we're talking about it because I feel like there's a difference between people that interact with you and people that know you. And we're kind of similar in the sense that we can get to know people, and people be like, Paul, one of my good friends. Because you're charismatic, you're able to engage. You're probably asking more questions about them. They're sharing more with you. And on the flip side, you probably haven't told them much, right? And so, Paul's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. And so, to continue on, but I want people to know that like there's a difference between someone thinking that they're friends because they feel comfortable around you and they feel safe, versus what you're talking about now, where you feel comfortable, safe, to share some of those more sensitive things.
When you're talking about in the scope of relationship that we're talking about, and as it proceeds, to marriage, vulnerability and transparency are like a necessity. And it wasn't the easiest thing for me it's still something that I'm working on. It wasn't the easiest thing for me to kind of unload and do, probably because of my history of no relationships or no girlfriends, right? I have great relationships with very, very close friends, and, they know me like no other people know me. But I told you what you needed to know, and a little bit here and there. But I think along the way, like, you have to be transparent. You have to be vulnerable. Somebody that you expect that you are going to be spending so much time with, right? And not just to play house, but like to grow and to mature and to be a family and to, do all these things that advance kind of your relationship. How could you not be vulnerable and transparent? Like, why would you not be? Because that just takes away from what you're trying to build and what you're trying to grow for you, for them, for if there are kids involved. It's different than just meeting somebody over at a happy hour. Right. And so, it goes back to some of that stuff we were talking about with the social media apps and stuff like that. Right. It takes away the transparency and the vulnerability. Right. It's all surface level relationships. And then when things hit the fan, they don't understand why you reacted the way that you did, or why you didn't react the way that you did. Right. I'm not you and you're not me. So just because you started boohooing doesn't mean that I am. Right. And it's not because I'm not sad. You just don't know me like that. Right. And that's the cover that you have to be able to remove with somebody who's going to be there with you, who is your ride or die, male, female, whomever it is. Like, this person is supposed to have your back like nobody else. How can they have your back if they don't know what side your back is?
Yeah. No, it's real. And so for people listening, I know it's an ongoing process, but like, what are some things that you've done, or how have you pushed yourself to be more vulnerable in your relationship?
Talk about things that are on my mind, or how things affect me, because I am one of those people that something would happen, I will internalize it. You won't know that I'm thinking about it. You won't know that I'm processing it. And then I'm done. Right. And so I still do that occasionally in different circles, but I had to kind of say, this is how I'm feeling. This is why, and this is how this made me feel. You know what I'm saying? When I'm talking with my wife about it, because if I just internalize it, it just makes things fester. I may be okay, but now she's mad because she knows that something's bothering me and I ain't saying nothing. Right. And so just, expressing, hey, this is on my mind. I want you to know what's on my mind. I want you to know what I'm feeling, for whatever reason. ... And keep it going. And so that's something that I've had to continue, and I still have to continue to work on, to be more transparent, to be more open, to be more vulnerable. Because I now know that it is for the better. And if you would have asked me that 10 years ago, I'd be like, nah, we good. We're good. You know what you know, and that's fine.
And are there things that your wife does or has done to help affirm you? And affirm is probably not the best word, but to continue to motivate you to be vulnerable. Because I can imagine if someone's not initially or innately vulnerable or forthcoming with how they feel and the things that they probably are internalizing, you may take a chance to then share, and a particular response in the wrong way could make you even more closed off.
Right.
And so, are there things that she's done to help you?
Well, I think, she knows when I'm in my mind. She knows that some people don't. A lot of people don't. But she knows when I am in between my ears. And she'll just stop me. I might be walking and not saying anything. And she'll trap me in the closet. Or trap me in the laundry room.
Let's go to the grocery store.
Or something like that where I can't get past. And she'll just, what's going on? Talk to me. What's on your mind? And so, my new aim is try not to get trapped in the corner. Don't get trapped. I need 3 exits at any place that I'm at. But yeah, I mean, she knows when my mind is in a space or is wondering, and she'll just look at me and be like, "Hey, so what's going on? What's the deal? Let's talk."
And that's cool that she recognizes that, and I would imagine that part of that is as you get to know someone, you start seeing those signs.
Yeah,
you've gone through certain challenges or issues or disagreements that you're aware of now, that from different triggers that you learn from and you adjust. Right. Would you go as far as to say that, would you go as far as to say that women have a role in creating safe spaces for that? Because I think about mental health. I think about all the things that are coming up today, especially with people of color. And so, I think, I'm going long here, but I think when a guy is dating a woman, it is that guy's responsibility to make sure she feels protected, to feel safe, to feel like she is good, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a role that a woman should have in the relationship to make sure that she's creating a safe space for a guy to, especially the way that we grow up, or most of us grow up, to share? Or is it kind of you just got, as a man, you got to figure it out?
I don't know. I don't know if it's as much her role to provide the space as it is, for me to make the space available, if that makes any sense. For myself as well as her, I am no, scholar in mental health, and I understand it's very, very important. But I don't know how that works. But to say that this is one person's role, it's a relationship is a two-way street, right? It's not a you come to me and I'll wait right here. It's always a let's meet at this point. Now the point may move and it may be closer to you than it is to me, but it's something that we're walking together, and it's her role and my role to provide a space for the conversation to be had as much as it is mine or hers to have the conversation, right? It's allow somebody to say that without, say what they're feeling without judging them for what they're saying. Because if they're saying it to you, it's for a reason. It means something. Let that meaning come to you and sink in, right? Before you just snap back at them, right? But it's a two-way street, right? It's mine to provide a space. It's hers to enter the space. It's hers to, provide that space. It's mine to be willing to walk over there without any second guessing, because I know where I'm going and who's over there with me got my back, right? The worst thing is, to walk into a safe place where you kind of question it if that person got your back, because it doesn't do anything for anybody.
And as you think about your marriage, I'm always curious to know how love languages play a part. And so what would you say your top ones are, and what are hers?
Touch and time.
And quality time.
Yeah, touch and time. I just like to kick it.
Yep.
We don't have to do anything. We can sit right here, pull out, a board game or something.
And be good.
And just kick it. Like vacations, I don't need to go all these places. Like I can go right here and we can just kick it right here. And we don't even have to talk all the time. Like
being in their space.
Yeah. Those two for me. She's a quality timer, but she's like an active quality timer, right? She likes to do things.
You like, let's sit down. She's like, let's go do these things together.
Yeah. I'm like, we can chill. We can
a good distinction to know. Like quality time is my love language too. But are we sitting? Or are we moving?
And then it's not one, but I would put it. I think security. Like just knowing that everything's golden.
She likes to know. She likes to know that.
Like everything is good. Like no matter what happens today, tomorrow, like everything is good. Just that sense of security.
So you don't create a sixth love language.
Yeah, I just made that one.
Okay,
for the people. Somebody can have that one too.
And so we talked about different challenges and things that you guys have faced while you have been in your relationship. Has there ever been any, I guess, insecurity or issues with infidelity in your relationship?
Nah, I mean, well, not to my knowledge.
Like, not that I'm aware.
Not that I'm aware. Do I need to crack the door real quick? Ask a question.
Oh no. I know that tends to, especially when people are dating and stuff like that. I think you want to take dating very seriously, but I think it's a whole different level and meaning when you are married.
Yeah.
And as a man, we've gone out, we've hung out, and when you go out now, are you like blinders on? I'm only talking to guys, or
no? I mean, you go out with me.
Like
you go out with me. I mean, we've been out before. Like I know where my bread is buttered. I know where my wife is. I know where my house is. But that doesn't mean I can't go out with my boys and just kick it. I will still to this day go out, and if I need to set a pick and roll for one of my partners so he can go spit whatever game he needs to spit, I will set pick and roll and then go on about my day. Right?
He's like, as long as we do it before 11.
Yeah, as long as it happens before 11. And I was like, you got 3 minutes of conversation that I'm going to give her friend. So if you haven't done what you need to do by then, that's your fault. I will still set a pick and roll. You just tell me what play we running, and I will slide over there. And where'd you go to school? Real quick, boom, boom, boom. Once I get to what do you do for a living? All right, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. You better have finished what you had to do. But I have zero issues going out with my people and just kicking it, right? Like I don't have to go to the club to spit. I don't have to go to the club to dance. I really don't even have to go to the club. We can go somewhere, grab some drinks, talk, kick it, talk sports, talk life, whatever. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I know you well, and I know that we are both the same in the sense that you can put us in any room with some people by ourselves. We're going to find a friend. We're going to make some friends. We're going to have some engaging conversation. We're going to get some buddies, or someone's going to feel like they're our buddy by the time it's over with. And I guess having a wife or a partner that may not have the same either charisma or even interest in doing that. Because some people are like, I don't know you. I don't need to talk to you.
I'm significantly more social.
Yeah. So how does that work? Whether it is when you guys are off doing your own things or when you guys are at the same place.
So,
and
the running joke and whatever. Like, I have a lot of work functions that I have to go to between, banquets and dinners and galas and all this stuff. And, when I go, sometimes it's work, right? And I still need to move around and shake a hand and kiss a baby or whatever needs to go on. And, sometimes that means I have to leave her somewhere. And she hates it because she's like, well, who's going to be there? Right? And I'm like, well, XYZ is going to be there. She's like, oh, okay, fine. Because then she'll spend time with that person that she already knows, and they'll just start from wherever they ended last time. Me, where are we going? You say, okay, all right.
You got to wear a tie?
Yeah, do I have to wear a tie? Like, no, okay, cool. And then we'll walk in. I say, you need to go do what you got to do. Have at it. And I'll be over there holding court with 3-4 people and say, hey, just want to introduce you. This is Ron. That's Sally. And that's my man, John. John went to A&M too. You know, I'm fine. And she knows it. And so she has no issues taking me with her places and worrying about what I'm going to be doing. Where sometimes I do get concerned of like, you know, I need to go do this and hold court and do whatever. Like, but she good. You good. We can roll. We can leave.
Does that make you think about whether you invite her out sometimes or not?
Not at all.
Because you're like, I got to deal with this, or I know she's not gonna know anybody, or it's like,
not at all.
You treat it all the same.
It's all the same to me. I mean, I always give the first right of refusal. There's a few times I'm like, nah, I need you. You know, I need you to come with me to this one. You know, she knows which one. They're like the same 3 events every year that she has to go to unless work is in the way.
So you're more like, hey, you don't have to come.
Well, yeah, I like, hey, this is who's gonna be there. This is what's happening. Boom, boom, boom. She's like, okay, I'll go. All right, cool. We'll leave at 7. Or, I was like, it's fine. And, you know, I'll cover for it. Don't worry about it.
So I really want to dive deep into, you know, your marriage, how it's changed, especially with this new addition to the family and you guys becoming, you know, or expanding from being lovers to like, now we're like lovers and parents. And so, but before I do,
we're parents.
Yeah, no more lovers, just parents. Okay, so let's talk about it. I think people want to know what that looks like or have an idea of what to expect. But before we do, I love doing a quick fire round where I have just a few short questions based off of things that, you know, people often talk about in like these conversations when it's about relationships, and it's just to get people a gauge of how people are doing it or what people think. And so the only rule here is like shorter the better.
Short and quick.
Short and quick, short and simple.
To the parent.
And so we're just going to go ahead and start. Is it important for your wife to be your best friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that short enough?
Super short.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Is it necessary? Like when you think about it in general, it's necessary for your wife to be your best friend.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. From a love standpoint, in terms of prioritization, is it wife over children or children over wife?
Wife over children.
Was your wedding worth it financially?
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, how much did y'all spend? You can give me a range.
What are my range options?
I mean, just like, it was between 25 and 32, or
It's between 25 and 40.
Bro, that's a big range.
Then you get to pick a lot of numbers.
So over 25, under 40.
Yeah.
And it was worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had to pick, which one would you pick? A big ring or a big wedding in terms of a purchase?
What would I pick or what would she pick?
We can give us both.
She would pick a big ring. I'd pick like a big ring with a decent wedding.
Okay. Joint accounts or separate accounts?
Joint, separate from business.
Okay. True or false, guys mature later than women?
True with an asterisk.
What's the asterisk?
It's not always true.
In terms of frequency of sex, first we're going to talk about your preference and then the reality. And we can even split it between after child.
These are quick fire responses?
Yeah. So the choices are all the time, weekly, monthly, every now and then, every blue moon.
This is my expectation?
Yeah, your preference. Like an ideal world, this is what I would want.
What are we doing? Before kids or after kids?
Just now. Yeah.
Weekly.
He's like, I'm old. Weekly is good.
Weekly.
All right. What's the reality?
Blue moon.
Is that before or after the child?
This is after the child.
Okay, before the child.
Like just north of weekly.
Okay, so close to your expectation.
Yeah, closer.
Okay.
Yeah, with after a child,
I'm lucky back.
Ain't no expectations anymore.
Who runs the show, you or her?
She does.
Are you just saying that?
No.
Okay. What's your wife's greatest attribute?
Intelligence.
What's more important to you in terms of your relationship with your wife? To be respected or to be loved?
To be loved.
Okay. You did it. You finished it.
I'm done?
You're done with the quick fire.
Pew, 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 pew.
We don't have no. We just started this off, so we don't have sound effects yet.
Oh,
Holla at holla at us next season. We'll have sound effects and a bigger budget. And so there's a couple of things that you talked about that I just wanted to get into real quick before we get into your relationship. So, what made the wedding worth it? Because a lot of people say, "Yo, it was like a day. You spent so much money just for one day." So, like, what made it worth it?
The people. Yeah, you spend a lot of money, but I think when you have the right collection of people there and things go the way that they're supposed to, and I'm a firm believer that the wedding is for the people, and the people that we had there were great, and it all worked out. For the most part, the host forgot half of his clothes. He was a groomsman, and he forgot half of his clothes. He's probably going to delete this off of the podcast. But aside from him only being in like 3 of the bridal photos and whatnot, everything else went great.
Just put me on blast.
I mean, I think, everybody had a great time. It was a party. And so for that, I say it's worth it. Like, if I could have done the exact same thing for less money, like, of course I would. Right?
But,
we didn't have any.
Know what you know now. No, you still would have spent the same. You spend the same amount that you would spend.
Do it again. I literally would do it again.
Great. Cool. You also said, you said something around. You said that she runs the household.
Yeah.
And so, I know the happy wife, happy life. And in some relationships, the woman takes more of a lack of better words, alpha role than the man and vice versa. And so how does that work between someone that runs a household and as a man being a leader of your family?
My wife has expectations of how this house should run, operate, look, and everything in between. And my job is to execute it. Right now, outward, it probably may look like I run occasional things, but like it's all from her expectation, right? I mean, I'm pretty laid back, right? So I, kind of like whatever. But there's things that she wants, and through our communications, you know what, you're right, and I will execute it. And so for that reason, I say that she runs it. I may execute on things and do things, and somebody
like
looking
Peyton,
in.
she's calling the plays. You're the quarterback, but I can audible if I see it better.
And I just execute the expectation, and for that reason, I say that she runs it.
Okay.
But I still got a foot. I still got a very strong veto. You know what I'm saying?
Put the foot down.
Yeah, I still
just so y'all know.
Yeah, just so you know, yeah.
Okay, whatever. And so, speaking of that, you talked about she kind of gives a vision, sets the bar, you execute. How does that play or impact when you think about roles and responsibilities? Because I feel like
it's ever changing.
Yours are a little bit different because part of it is heavily dependent on her schedule and work.
It's ever changing. It's changed a lot since we've had a kid. It'll probably change again. I think if you were to list out the 10 things or like that need to happen in this house, it's me/my wife, me/my wife, me/my wife, me/my wife. There is not, I killed the bugs, right? That one's all me. If there's bugs or some critter that gets into the house, that's my job. But it's literally interchangeable, and I think that was something I had to work at. You have these expectation or these created roles of like what a man's supposed to do and what a woman's supposed to do, and it just doesn't work like that all the time. It just doesn't. And I do more laundry than I may want to, fold more clothes. I had to learn very quick, put bras in the dryer. You gotta hang them up.
Air dry.
Gotta let them air dry. Right?
They're expensive.
I ain't know that from the jump. It went in the washer and then it went in the dryer.
For all you fellas out there, if you ever doing your ladies' laundry,
you see a bra,
or you trying to do something nice for your side, hey, don't dry the bras.
Hang them up, man. You'll get 2 points. 2 points added to your total.
But people say that, and I believe it, and I know your relationship, and I know like there has to be a lot of flexibility given the nuances that happen.
Yeah.
The work schedules change, and now you have a child, which creates a whole different level of things that are unpredictable. But at the end of the day, like you talked about, like, and maybe these are not important. So you're the married person. You correct me for like, I often think like when it comes to killing bugs, that's always going to be a guy thing. Typically, when it comes to like the yard work, mowing the lawn, or taking care of that, that's the guy.
Those are probably the two things.
When it comes to the car maintenance and washing it and making sure it's good, that's the guy. And so, if there are certain things that are, for the most part, going to be 95%, unless like something happens to you, like, are there anything that's 90?
Well, I mean,
90?
she definitely does more of the child rearing currently. Part of that has to do with he knows where the food is.
He knows where the money is.
He knows where the money is, and he knows that I don't have it. And so, if his mama is there, he wants to be with his mama, and I'm with it. I get it, brother.
You have you're aware of that's the truth.
Yeah, I'm aware that that's the truth. It hurt Daddy's heart a little bit, but she does a lot of the child rearing. I mean, I go to work pretty early, and so she takes him and picks him up most of the time. When she's on call and things like that, it changes, and I pick him up, and we come do our routine. And
like because with the kids, like we were just talking about it earlier, like there's more. Like with you, like I may eat, I might not eat, but like kid, they eat a lot.
Yeah,
there's more clothes to wash. There's they gotta take baths like every 3 times a day or something. Or at least twice a day.
He ain't there yet. He ain't sweating or nothing like that.
And so, like, who's doing that?
Schedules, and you tap in, tap out. I change a lot of diapers. She would tell you that I don't change as many as she does, and that might be true.
I was like, I didn't know it was counting.
Yeah, I was like, I think she just changes at a higher frequency than I do. But I mean, as it relates to our son, I mean, she does a lot with that. I suck at washing bottles.
How?
For all the guys, let me talk to the fellas real quick. So all the guys, it's not always about points, but sometimes, just wash the bottles. If you have a kid or you're about to have a kid, and there's going to be bottles from pumping and feeding, and there's always like 37,000 bottles.
Are they not dishwasher safe?
Apparently, yes and no. I think sometimes the preference is for you to clean it yourself versus putting it in with dirty dishes, and that's what we subscribe to. But it just,
y'all don't have like the thing that you used to put in the test tube to clean it out.
Yeah, no, we got one of those.
And you just don't use it well.
No, I use it. It's just time, and,
I was about to say,
and it's never like 3 bottles, okay. But because everything has parts. Right?
Oh, that's true.
It's like you gotta take the nipple off of this, and then take this apart, and then take these pump parts apart, and you figure out it's 10 pieces, and you gotta get in there with these, and then you're like, well, I don't even know how to put this thing back together. It's just all these pieces. Just brothers out there, wash the bottles, wash the pump parts. You can't do it. You might not be able to do it every day, but every once in a while, just get in there and bump, and just wash them. Just wash them.
And so, given all the tasks that you guys, have to do, and the emerging task with raising a child, what's your philosophy or thought process on like outsourcing those tasks?
Like, does he go to a daycare?
No, I'm just saying, like having someone come and something like, well, I don't like to cook, so let's just hire someone to cook, or let's hire someone to clean our house, or hire someone to.
The maid thing is getting stronger and stronger.
The who?
Maid thing. Yeah,
the stronger argument for it.
Yeah, man, it's just you trying to keep this house clean, and he's crawling everywhere, and getting somebody in here like once a month just to
Like that's becoming more compelling.
It's becoming more and more compelling. Like we still do a lot of stuff. We probably eat out more than we want. We both have professional jobs, and we don't get home at 4:45 and 5 all the time. And once he gets home, we're feeding him, and I'm doing this and she's doing that, and then we switch, and I'm doing this and she's doing that, and then before you know it, it's 7:45. You're getting ready to put him down, and then boom, it's 8:45. Have you eaten? I'm not trying to. I was like, all right, Uber Eats. It is. You witnessed it today. Uber Eats it is. Did you go to the grocery store? I haven't gone to the grocery. All right, let me go pick this up real quick. And so trying to figure out how all that stuff kind of works together. I was never, I always viewed the maid thing as like some uppity, well-to-do, Fresh Prince kind of thing.
Yeah.
You Bel Air people. That's how I grew up in the version of the maid. I was the maid when I grew up. I was the.
So this time next year, y'all might have one.
Next year, boy, next month, man.
Cool. I got you. So I want to know how that works. Going a little bit deeper, how has it been to be a father? Because you talked about earlier some of the mental blocks in like becoming someone's husband, and that's forever. And so I can imagine there's other like mental hurdles or things you're thinking about when it's like, my wife is pregnant or I'm about to have a child. I'm fully responsible for this person's well-being, success. Like,
I don't know if I would say like it was mental blocks with him. I think it was more like anxiety, like of like, what about this, and well, what if I do this wrong, and especially when he was itty bitty, like, it's like you holding him. It's like you feel like if you sneeze, you gonna hurt him. He's
a little bit more durable now.
He's a lot more durable, and it's like so much more stuff that you have to consider, and especially when they're young, and who can come over, and everybody wants to.
I wasn't able to come over.
You weren't able to come over.
I didn't know that you have to get like a shot, or people get shots before you see a baby.
The Tdap, yeah, yeah. I mean, we believe in those shots in this household. And so, I mean, that's a whole other dialogue, right? The vaccination thing and the conversation that's happening in that world. And some people don't feel that it's necessary for their kid. And I'm like, hey, you do your thing, but
keep the measles away from me.
Right. Until my kid has done his thing, you and y'all can stay over there. Yeah, it's not like I'm trying to tell you what to do with your kid. I'm just telling you don't let what you do affect. But that's things I would have never, getting the flu shot. Psh, unless I just happened to be available that day that they were at the building at the bottom, You're
not getting one.
I wasn't getting one, but now it's like, nah, like, first time it comes out. All right, man, hit me. Let's go. Make sure. It's beautiful, though, but it's just so much more. He's at an age right now where he recognizes me, and that's dope. He smiles when I go pick him up and crawls to me, and we take great dad naps, the best thing ever. Any dad that's listening knows what I'm talking about. The dad nap is a great thing. But it's just cool seeing him grow. It just seems like it happens so fast, and everything's happening so fast.
It's almost 10 months?
A little over 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah, a little over 10 months. Be a year here in a few months, and it just every day is something new, and you just want to make sure that you're doing right by them and for them.
And it's crazy because I think like you guys got through a big hurdle. I think that first 6-7 months with the child is like, especially your first child, everything's new. I don't know what, I'm trying to figure it out. But I think then you get into it's like, okay, they're growing, they're learning. We get into this rhythm, and then it's like school starts. It's like we got to make sure they're doing the homework. Or we got to make sure they're doing their projects. Or now they want to be in these clubs. And I feel like now you're in a good spot because he can't say, Dad, I want to go do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's somewhat of a tangent. But, we moved to where we are a few years ago. And, what schools were over here was never a thought as it came to our decision to move to where we were. It was more so about work and proximity and things like that. And so everybody's like, what school are you zoned to? And this is the elementary. And and I grew up at a time, and then it's like, this is where we live. This is where you're going to school. Right. And my parents were always involved in school, like always. And that, my pops used to take me off the teams in middle school if I got a C. I'd be off for 3 weeks. And so I just never subscribed to you got to move here for this school. But now, like, all that static is coming up, and it's like, this school over here, but this one's closer, and this is one of the best ones in Arlington, all that kind of stuff. I just don't know how I feel about it. It's just so much noise now, and you're trying to filter all of it and make sure ultimately that whatever gets through it puts him in the best position to be whatever it is he's going to be, and the best at it. And that's all you think about. That's all you think about, whether it's academics, whether it's sports. I always tell my wife he's going to be a left-handed pitcher. He's going to be in the league 20 years, making millions playing every 5 days. You already started the training? Yeah, I'm working on it, man. Like that and golf, man. He's going to be out there. He's going to play the sticks, and we're going to get him out there and, go to HBCU and change. You already decided the HBCU? No, unless they give money. All right. Yeah.
And so you talked about, and I'm sure these are things that are probably lightly in your head. You got a few years before those decisions have to be made. But, you think about the world, all the things that we deal with it, whether it is, for us, being black in America, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, for you, being a husband, for you, running a business. And like you said, you have other people's salary on your payroll, so you're responsible for them. Now you add in a child to the mix, right? There's all these things that are taking a foothold in your mental capacity or your thought process. How do you continue to make sure that there's a allotment for your marriage and your wife?
That's tough, man. That was something that we have been talking about post him, not like immediately after he was born, but when we finally kind of figured out that we weren't going to drop him, kind of thing. But it's tough, and I think a lot of first time parents go through that, where you put so much energy and time into this child, which they deserve, but you forget about your marriage, right? You asked in the little, rapid fire, child over wife or wife over child. I was wife over child, right? My wife is my partner. And that doesn't mean that I love my son some degree less or something like that. Or, I'm sure someone, well, if it was a burning building, who would you? No, this is my partner that I chose, and this is the gift that we received. You know what I'm saying? And so I just feel my responsibility is to my child through my wife.
That's good like that. So to your child through your wife.
Yeah.
I feel you. And I'm probably...
Does that make sense, though?
It makes sense to me.
That has been something that we've had to intentionally, because as you progress to that, what you start to lose very, very quickly is time, right? My son is 10 months. So let's just go from his birth up until this point. Up until this point, my wife and I have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dates where it was just me and her. Right? And I love taking my son everywhere. And anybody that knows me knows he will pop up at your brunch. He goes everywhere. And he's going to be the light of the land when he shows up. But, I feel it's important. It should be important that we get our alone time to just be. You know what I'm saying? And does that mean that we're not going to talk about him and stuff he has going on? Not necessarily. He's going to come up. He's the little dude. He's the homie. But we still have to be there for each other. And so we've had 5 dates over the last 10 months. And, the conversation, it's like, it can't continue to be like that. It can't. We need to make an effort. One thing that we've tried to start doing, we've done it once or twice, is, my wife has a half day on Tuesday. And so, strategically, I'll basically work my day until noon and come home, and her and I'll go to the movies or go do something. And then we'll go get him at daycare at 4. Right? We have this time. Let's use this time to our advantage. It doesn't happen every week, but our time together is just as important as our time with our son. And we just have to figure out how to make it happen. And then we just didn't know how to at the beginning. Period. We just didn't know how to. And that causes friction. It causes friction because it's like you become ships in the night. I mean, you're just passing by each other, making sure y'all don't hit, but you never really, get acquainted with each other and continue to connect and reconnect and
like you said, it's a marathon. Continue to run that marathon as it pertains to just your marriage.
Right. It's like, when you have a kid, as it relates to that marathon, all you did was turn a corner and now you're running up a hill. It's tougher. You're not going to go as fast as you used to, but you still need to maintain a stride. And that's something that we are working on. We travel with them, and so that's been great. Well, 6, because we were in D.C. and we got to spend some time with some friends of ours, and we're blessed with a babysitter one evening, and 6 times. But they're great times when we do it. I just think we need to do it more often. It doesn't necessarily need to be weekly, but it needs to be at a higher frequency, so we continue to grow. And through that example that he sees, he becomes the best version of himself.
And speaking of growth, as we wrap up, you've known your wife 10 years?
Yeah, basically.
Been married for 5. How have you matured and grown in your relationship?
I'm still learning how to be a husband. Now I'm learning how to be a husband and a father because they work in conjunction with each other. I think I have become, over that time, more aware, right, of when, kind of things are moving and shaking in our world, being aware of them sooner rather than later. I have become more vulnerable over that time. Man, I just try to be better, man. It's like there's so much stuff that goes into a working marriage and a working household. I just try to be better. Be better today than you were yesterday. And continue growing, whether that is, the laundry one day, whether it's what I do in the yard, whether it's fixing up stuff around the house to make it more accessible for everybody, whether it's putting up, no fall straps on furniture, like just all that different stuff. And so I'd say those are the main areas that I've probably grown. Vulnerability is probably the largest. Just over that time, just becoming more open with her here. Not for the people. The people that I'm open with, they know who they are. And they'll be the same. But, no new friends.
How would you answer that for your wife? How has she matured and grown in the relationship?
I wouldn't answer it for her, because my answer would probably be 1,000% wrong.
Well, I mean, it's your opinion, though, right? She may have a different one, but like part of this is that there's a lot of platforms that women give their opinion, or guys give in the context that their wife is just there. We want to know unadulterated. Like, what are your thoughts?
Where do I think that she has grown the most? I would say being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because it happens more often. I think she's just more comfortable in them. Not that she's like a superstar in them, but more comfortable in those comfortable situations.
And that's like when you think about the confines of a relationship.
Yeah. And then her, speaking and using her voice. Like, instead of holding something in, like saying what she has to say and not letting it be some, lost word. She says it.
Do you feel like you created an environment to make it easier for her to have a voice? Or she just kind of figured it out? She took it from you?
Yeah, I think she took and created the environment, because I was taking too long to create it.
She's like, listen, I'm finding my voice
what's gonna happen.
without you.
This is what's going to happen.
Okay. And so my last few questions, love to ask everyone this at the end. Why did you get married?
I wanted companionship, and I wanted consistency, and I wanted it for a long time. With her, I wanted that with her, and I wanted to grow with her. I think the easiest word, it's probably a weird word, but it's consistency. I don't want to have to think about what I told you or didn't tell you, or if I told it to this person or that person. And I guess the detractor would say, well, you don't have to be married to do that. What's the difference? Right? it goes back to commitment. I was committed to that consistency. So why not be committed?
And I know you've already mentioned that your wife is your best friend. At what point did she become your best friend?
Before we got married.
Like, did something happen? Like, yo, this is, or just over time?
I think it was when we started, like, probably when we went on our first vacation together. Because, when you go on vacation, it's just y'all two. Like, ain't no escaping. When you're dating, like, you got your spot, she got her spot. If she's sick and tired of you, she's just going to go home and then be like, I'm going to see you tomorrow. You're like, all right, cool. Turn my TV up as loud as I want. But we went on our first vacation, which was, it was a ski trip. Her and I went on a ski trip. It was our very first vacation. It was something that neither of us had ever done before. And so we're trying to figure out what we're supposed to buy. We both from Texas. And literally, like, aside from me using the bathroom, like, we were together for 4 days straight. There are only a few people that I could do that with for that extended of a time without going off or disappearing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good analogy to think about, whether it's your significant other or in general a best friend, because I think everybody's quirky. Everybody got preferences. Some people a little bit needier than others. Mm-hmm. And if you could go a week or 5 days being with them, and like you don't want to steal them in the face or walk away from them and have your own time, then I think that whether you want to put a title on that or not, it tells you something.
Yeah.
What would you say it means to be a man in a relationship, and especially like a marriage? And if they're different, like while you're dating, then you can
I'll just use marriage.
Distinguish the difference.
What it means to be a man in marriage.
Can we do both? Yeah, I feel like while you're dating, I feel like there's a role a guy has as like, you
I don't think there's a difference. If it's a guy that's heading that direction and a guy that's there, I don't think that there's a difference. To be a man in a relationship is to be understanding, to be vulnerable, to be resolute, right, in that relationship or marriage, to be, diehard about it and where it's going. I think people throw leader out all the time, and I don't think that's like a necessity. Like, I think it's a great quality, but like, I don't think that is like what it means to be a man in a relationship. Because I think if you do the other things, it's like you will be a leader, right? It's like, it's easy to say that you're a leader. It's one thing. It's easy to say you're a leader until you look around and nobody's following you.
Yeah, that's real.
Right? And so it's like, just because you're a man doesn't mean you're a leader. The things that you do make you a leader. And right? And so it's like, you're not a leader because you're a man. You're a leader because of the things that you do as a man. And those things make you a leader. So like, it should never be a thing to say that, what does it mean to be a man? It means a leader. No, it doesn't. It means all these things that you do that somebody wants to follow. That's what makes you a leader. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think that that's what it means to be a man. Being vulnerable, being resolute in that relationship, going hard for and respectful, being respectful.
Last couple questions. These are my two favorite questions.
Okay.
What advice would you give your son about dating or on dating? In general, not like him in 9 months, but in general.
I'd probably just tell him, probably similar, same thing to what I said about what it means to be a man. do it, date, don't be like your dad and not do it and then be trying to figure it out. Do it, learn who you are, but be respectful. You know what's right and what's wrong. So do those things and everything else will kind of fall in line.
Okay. And the last question is, what advice would you give your daughter about dating or on dating?
Probably like really close to the same thing. And I would add, if she was older, so this is not like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Go after what you want. Like.
And she's like, Dad, what does that mean?
Don't settle.
Okay.
I mean, he shouldn't settle either. But like, don't settle. My expectations for my kids, my current kid, and any future kids is high, right? And if somebody's not willing to accept that trajectory that you're on, don't settle. Keep going. No need to settle just because they don't want to ride on the same train that you're on. Somebody else is on the train. Somebody else at least respects that train. Right? And I don't mean that just from a financial stance, right? Just somebody that respects the position that you are doing. And go.
And that's a wrap. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everyone that's listening. Please continue to subscribe to the I Think I Love My Wife podcast. For those who have questions on certain issues or topics that you would like me to go deep on, send me a note at thinklovewife on Instagram. We'll bring Paul back and discuss. Thanks again, and I hope the conversation keeps going.